recording.
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got the little dot.
Okay,
We
good.
got sound, we got audio, video. This is as good as it's getting.
All right, Tim, you're on.
Oh, very good. This is the generative AI talk for 10:30. So if you want to do the Java one or the user experience one, leave now. Everything's being recorded, so you'll still be able to see all the sessions. They're in Zoom and they'll be shared with everyone who signed up. Let me get into it. If people have questions, either online or in person, let me know. There's only one person online, so I think you guys win there. Okay, I run a newsletter every week. You don't even have to sign up. It's in GitHub, and it's got I cover everything, a lot of stuff every week. Open source software, free software, machine learning, AI, Python, lots of cool stuff, lots of cool projects, videos, articles, demos, all that kind of stuff. I think I'm in issue 125 at this point. My clicker don't work. I run some meetups in New York, New Jersey, and Philly. The New Jersey one's usually in Princeton. We've got a couple of AI ones. I've got a New York one coming up end of the month, and I've got an AI one coming up in Jersey City end of the month. Next month is the big Princeton AI Festival. So I got links to that later. Not going full screen here. Full screen. Oh, let's get back to that. This is me. I've been working with big data, streaming technology, IoT, ML for a while, and I'm still willing to do it, which is great. There is a lot in the Gen AI space going on because people put money there. Once you have a lot of money, there's going to be a lot of people involved. And what's nice is it's very easy to get started because even the paid systems have free tiers to start with. And then in the open tiers, you could do a lot even on your laptop or in a small server instance. Lots of good stuff out there. Everyone's heard of the big ones, OpenAI, ton of new models coming out every day. And what's nice is there are some open ones, and the ones from Mistral in France are pretty decent for open available models. We'll show you that sometimes you'll need a vector database, though there's talk of just put it into a regular database. Vector databases are kind of hot because it's really easy to put unstructured and semi-structured data into a vector database. And there's libraries to do it very quickly. And they're very easy to do lookups against. So instead of just going directly to a potentially expensive model here, you could go against your local data set, which will have things to either maybe even answer the question or at least give you more information to make the prompt better. So that those are kind of useful. Today I'll demo Pinecone, but I've done Chroma, I've done Solar. The Milvus people are really cool. They've been around for a while, so they have a lot of different indexes. So if you've got a really strong ComSci background, look at their source code. They're doing some very interesting things on vector indexing. They also have hosted versions. There's a lot of different libraries out there. Almost all of them are for Python that show you how to get these things into a stream pretty easy, but I'll show you an easier way. But if you're looking for a consultant job, if you put that on your resume, you will have 1,000 calls before you finish return on that. There is not many people who know those well. And the libraries change literally every day. There's a new version. So if you try to keep up, it's not easy. Hugging Face are awesome. Besides their cool logo, They support the community really well. Open source libraries, open models are there. They let you use their libraries for free. They also let you call a lot of the hosted models via REST for free. And I'll show you some of that today. There's a lot of different things you could do with LLM. Common ones most people are doing either Q&A or chatbots or something with take some kind of documents in and try to search them, do a chat against them. And then some more traditional machine learning kind of things like classification around data. Generating content, I mean, in marketing, it's pretty big. I use a lot of their images, but the text they generate, even with the expensive models, is hit or miss. So that one's still in process. Code assistants are actually getting pretty good to help you get started with your code. It is not code you can run or put in production, but to give you some ideas, like I use this a couple times and it'll give you ideas for libraries you might not have seen before or thought of because they've searched and trained on every library and pip, every library and GitHub. Like they know every library, so they can give you some good ideas. Sometimes they're totally wrong. Sometimes they don't even do a for loop right, but can give you some ideas. It's another way to lint your code. Summarize document, it does this really well, regardless of the type of document. This can give you a nice summary of stuff. I wish I had this in college. I wouldn't have to take notes. Just do it for you. Just feed entire books through and get 3-page summary and just learn that. What are you gonna do? Language translation is actually pretty decent, especially among the top 100 human languages. Does a pretty good job. That's the generic stuff. The big decision you might have to make is, are you going to use the closed model? OpenAI and these that are total black box. No one knows how they work. They may work, they may not work. Google has these models. Everyone's putting out these models. But, you have to send your data there. And almost none of them have things that say they're not going to use your data to train with or add that for answers. So I don't know if I put my business or important or personal information in there because they could use it for whatever. And there's ways to trick these models to telling you stuff that they're not supposed to. Open source, these are growing really fast. Everyone who's putting out closed models is pretty much putting out open models. They're usually smaller, but since they're open, more people are working on them, more people are fine-tuning them, more people are making custom ones that you could use for different use cases. And I'll show you a couple that I'm using. There's a smaller one out there that's good for identifying not safe for work text, not safe for work images. So I use that in some of my pipelines, to filter out some stuff. Because when you're dealing with open input into systems, garbage coming in is pretty strong. But there's models to help you clean it up. And again, of course, this is a lot cheaper unless you have to do some additional training, because then you might need GPUs. But, very often you run this in a pretty small system or use something like Hugging Face to use their REST endpoints. Some of the big problems, getting data in, especially data that's not already trained, like anything that's not in the public domain, like things that are at your company or things that are in your personal area that you're working on, getting that data in, still a data engineering problem. There's a lot of these models and the way they're set up are set up a very specific way, maybe not designed for however you want to deploy things. And of course, if you're using one of these closed models, who knows what the security is? They've just started putting this stuff out. There's a lot of opportunity for problems. There's ones coming up and announced like every couple of weeks. So what you want to do, though, is not just hit the language model. It's been trained on a lot of data, but not anything that you might want to work with. Like for me, I have one that I'm using for my meetup group. So it's trained on all the talks that have been in the meetup group and all the articles that I've written and the different people who've done talks have written. So it's trained for our specific stuff. having that extra data makes things better. So if I want to search, someone asks in my meetup interaction, they want to know about iceberg. They're not talking about a physical piece of ice. They're talking about an open source project for data. So being able to know that is not something these large language models know right away. I'm just going through some of these other slides. So the part that makes this easy is I have an open source project out there that I've been using called Apache NiFi. And the reason why I use this project is because it's highly scalable and it lets me interact with all these models no code or very low code, and being able to integrate with Python very easily now. Runs on some of the newer Java, so it gets all that new performance. If you haven't seen Java in a while, JDK 21 brings it up to the level of performance that we're starting to get close to where Rust is. So the new Java, much better syntax, much more performance, all kind of cool features, and that's what we're using for NiFi. So that's pretty nice. The things we can do with data pipelines with NiFi is get that context that we're going to need for prompts and get that in, clean it up, prepare it, get it vectorized, chunked. I'll show you how we do this, but there is a lot of steps to take, Word documents and PDFs and PowerPoints and all kinds of Google documents and text and get them in a format that we could put into a vector database so that we could use that to augment the models. Because if you have to retrain the models or fine tune the models, that takes GPUs, it takes hours, it takes a lot of money. If I'm augmenting these existing models with a vector store, which is called the RAG pattern, it saves you a lot of time, money, and it'll make things as relevant as possible. Next part is we build the prompt. I think this is kind of overblown title, say prompt engineering. It's, you're writing some text. So, it's not as full blown as engineering, but there is some nuance there. There is some automation you need to do, grabbing data from different sources, grabbing it from that vector store and putting it in the right format for that right model is a little tricky. It's, a little nuanced. I don't know if it's science or more like art. And then fully getting all the things that we need from these systems for the RAG is very important. So that if I want to format a call to an LLM, if they give me something simple, like they say, who is Tim Spann? I could feed them an exact match from my vector database and tell the LLM, only search this bunch of text I gave you for the answer. So the answer will be right. And it's not going to search a database of weird stuff. So that is a very nice way to do it. I mean, you almost don't need the LLM for some of them. That is a debate. Do you skip the LLM if it's something that's you have an exact match on? Or if it's something, I like to pre-check the prompts to look for things like, are they asking for the current stock price or current weather or current information that I can get from a source I know is going to be right? And I could do that automatically with the open source tool I have. And again, being able to take input from, like, say, a Slack channel, which I'll show you today, or from any other system, bring that in, build the prompt, vectorize it, check it against the vector database, use that to build a prompt, get the results from the prompt, clean it up, and then send it back to you, all without writing any code. Pretty nice. And it doesn't matter what data it is. It could be zip files. I pull down zip files from different government sites to get, all the weather forecasts for the next 15 minutes in the country. I think there's 3,000 different spots they give you that for. Images of different types, all different types of documents, all types of videos, sound, any live sources, Slack and Discord and Twitter, all those sort of ones. And being able to take all those weird formats, figure out what MIME type they are, look at all their metadata, convert them into text if they need to convert to text, chunk them up into sizes that optimize storage for vector databases, and then get it into the vector database. You know, parse documents out to get the information that you need, just the text, and you don't care about the formatting. Maybe even with some of the libraries, pull out a table from a PowerPoint, grab all the fields out of that and use that as an answer to a question, which is pretty cool, or load that into a database. Work with a lot of different cloud-based systems out there, whether it's Cloudera's, Amazon's, Hugging Face, IBM, Pinecone, Milvus. There's a lot of them. OpenAI. I recently worked with Google's new Gemma model, which isn't bad. If we have time, I'll show you that one. All these slides will be made available. They all have links to GitHub source code, deeper articles. So if you want to try out different models, you could do that. This is the basic paradigm that I'm working with. Ingest the document, parse it, chunk it, get into vector store, and then potentially store that information somewhere else. And it's almost that easy. A couple different things that I've written to make this a little easier. I've got a one-step, if you look and see this box here, this is the full code that you'll have to use. You just drop it into a data flow, and I'll show you how we do that. And this will extract any company names from a data flow. This is important if they send you a prompt and it has like, what is the current stock price for Amazon? I could pull out their company name and then use that as an additional query or as part of a more optimized query against a vector store or against the open model. I've got one to call Watson X. They host a bunch of foundation models. And I've written one right now using image captioning so that you push an image in and it'll generate a caption. I'll show you that query. That one's kind of cool. Again, it took me 2 hours to write that because it's just using an existing Hugging Face library. I did one for Microsoft Resonant 50, not Gen AI, but useful for sometimes you want to still classify images the old way. This one's important. I'm letting people on my meetup group upload images to my Slack. So I'm processing these and looking to make sure they're not updating stuff that we don't want to have in our system. And, you know, we can report them even with the API. I can ban them from the Slack group. Stuff that you don't think of will happen in a live Zoom, but it does. Look for facial emotions. That was a really easy one to do, so I added that one. I've got a bunch of other ones. We got one to call ChatGPT, chunk up the document, do some queries. Let's get into some code. And not just show you some slides. Again, the slides will be available. Hopefully everything's running here. Still running. No questions. So the way we start off is I have so this is my public Slack group for my meetup. And I let people post images from the meetup to say, hey, this is, you know, maybe it's a photo of the people there or whatever. So I'll let you just upload an image and you could just pick an image. I should have took an image while we're here, but then. And you upload the image by just putting it in here. Now, as soon as you do that, behind the scenes, if we take a look, it's already here. Oh, did it come here yet? Let's watch through the system. So I have, this is NiFi, this is the live running code. It does look like little diagrams, but that's actually the code. These little boxes here are the coding. You basically code by dragging and dropping pre-built components over here from a list of components. So if you wanted to deal with Slack, there's ones for Slack. You want something from Amazon, there's Amazon, things from Microsoft, things from Google, you know, Dropbox, you know, and all our Unix favorites are in there, you know, raw TCP IP, pretty much you know, there's 300 systems in there, so a lot. You know, most of the ones that you want. So what we do here is I have something that listens to Slack requests, and it's a basically WebSockets. So when I type something into that Slack group, I have a Slack bot set up, and NiFi reads it with that little box there, and then just sends it to whoever wants it. I send a copy of it to a database. I've got Postgres running, so I just send it to my Postgres and save it there. And then I process the chat if it's text. So what I do is, I do a lot here. So I take out the fields that I like, because they give you a lot of fields. I just want, you know, the text, who sent it, that sort of stuff. If it's not me who did it, not the bot, I mean, I don't need to process my own stuff and get in that infinite loop. I can't say I didn't do that for a while and keep having, I post a reply to something automatically and then it gets read in and then I post. You can see what happens with that. I got rid of that infinite loop. So we come here, I process it, and then I'm checking using Hugging Face to see if there's not safe for work text in there, because we don't want that. So I process this out. That's as hard as it is to get the results. Anything that gets processed, I filter out the bad stuff, and then check it, see if it's in Pinecone Vector Store. If it is, I get the top data back. I just want one. I can get back, they'll give you 5, 10, 20 different near matches. I just take the top match, take the results that I want, and then I use that to send to a model. Now for this one, I sent an image. So it saw that it was an image, so it didn't need to send it through there. So we have images coming over here. So I sent a copy of that Slack to Kafka so it can be distributed to as many servers who want to process it. So this server is going to process images. So it gets that Slack message in there, and the Slack message says it has an attachment. I can download that using OAuth and tokens. I see that it's a binary. If it's a PDF, I'm going to parse it and grab the text out of it to load up into my vector store here after I parse it and chunk it. If it's an image, which we're looking at for this particular demo, I bring it into my image processor. It comes in and I run a couple different things against it. I run YOLO 8 to find things in the image. I run that blip one we saw before, and then I publish the results to a Slack. And if we look at the Slack, it published the image. This is a person, and then my book bag is a suitcase. Kind of close. Too bad for the model. But it also put the caption on top. That's from a different model. Man in a suit standing on stage with his arms out. I don't know what that first word means, but you know, they're usually pretty good there. But again, that was the flow to grab a Slack image, bring it in, process it, store it, run a bunch of different Gen AI and deep learning workloads on it, and process and push the results into Slack. And if someone said, well, I need to send it to S3, okay, I can also do that by just adding here, do success, and then put in my S3 credentials there, and it'll automatically send it to S3. If I wanted to send it to email also, or a database, or some third system, I could just do that. Now, if we have something that's text in here, like you might want to ask I asked this one, what is the Trenton Computer Festival? So that gets sent in, and that gets read by that same Slack guy, but it's obviously not an image. So we have it coming in. I have an option to call a lot of different models. OpenAI, I've got ChatGPT, and I could have it come into here. I've got this one turned off because this one cost me some money, but this is pretty easy for me to call that one. I can call Olama. Olama is a model you could run on your laptop, and you load which kind of model you want there. It is not bad. It takes a little bit of resources, but it's runnable and it runs pretty quick. So that's another option. I also have access to Watson X's version. I've got Hugging Face, Gemma, but the newest model I've been playing with is hosted on Hugging Face. This is a Mixtral 8.7b instructions. Mixtral is one of Mistral from France's new models that combines a couple different models together. They call it a mixture of experts, which sounds very pompous, but this is a French model. It does work pretty well. And again, this is their free version. They've got a non-free version, which is trained on a larger instruction set, is a little better. But this is pretty good. Again, we already filtered this out. We filtered out the not safe for work stuff, added some additional prompt stuff from the Pinecone vector store. And is that the right time? 10:58. Yeah. So this is the most recent record. One of the nice things about NiFi is it keeps a lineage or provenance of your data as it's going through the system. NiFi was created at the NSA 13 years ago, and then they open sourced it after about 4 years. And it has some features that not many other systems have thought of, but having a full lineage of everything that happens to your data is pretty nice. And it's not just something like I'm dumping a log file to the command line. This is live data that I can read in with another system. I can push it to Prometheus. I can push it to Kafka, to a database, or I can use NiFi to process this metadata live. So this is a live stream of data that tells me everything that's happening with these flows, every step, everything it's done, how long it took, how big things are. Pretty much any piece of metadata you'd want to know for debugging or figuring out what's going on, every kind of HTTP header, every database header, any kind of metadata. So this is the context that I pulled out of Pinecone. I've mentioned this festival in one of my articles. So it pulled it out of there along with some extra information. And it's using that to help out with the prompt. So we send this into Hugging Face against the Mixtral model. It gets a result back. I put just the fields that I liked in there. You could choose all of them if you wanted to. And then I push it to Kafka just so that I could use it for other applications. So I push that into Mixtral topic. So if I want to, see the results of this somewhere else or share this with someone, I've got the generated text there and all the metadata. So I knew how many compute units it took, how long it took, where it ran. That sort of stuff seems useful to me. And I also send it to Slack. So I send it to Slack, and it comes in as a threaded reply to my original message because we track timestamps on the messages. So I put a lot of metadata there. I could just give you the answer, but I like to have all the metadata there just for my own purpose. I could turn that off very easily. So we get the attachment as well. So you know that full thing there you get back. And Princeton, they're a little off. I mean, slightly off on location. March or April. So I don't know if their original model had some training on Wiki, but it's a halfway decent answer. I mean, for free, when you're paying, you get slightly better. But say, what is Apache NiFi? That may be more to home. But again, going through the same process where it just comes into the listener and then we start sending it through the system, as it's going in there, and I keep a copy in a database. I'm figuring I keep all the prompts somewhere, keep all the results. You know, maybe use them for training other models in the future when GPUs become cheaper. But right now, this is just all this is running on my laptop. This isn't Docker. So I have NiFi. I've got running some models locally, running some Python machine learning locally, running Kafka and some other stuff all in one place. So we process this data and it's coming in here, but I can also process it with another model. Like say, let's see if I can do a little, yeah, I get a little backlog here on GPT. ChatGPT is still the best model. I don't really want to know how they're doing it because it's seems a little sketchy on their process, but I'm gonna run one. Theirs is pretty good. And then we get the results back from that. Okay, we got the result from Mixtral here. That's why I put that in there, because I've got like 6 or 8 different models and they're running on different platforms. So it's like, where did this answer come from? This was Hugging Face hosting this Mixtral model. That was my question. That's when I sent it. And give me the result back. NiFi active. Okay, that is true. Okay, then we're right. That's not too bad. And again, get all the metadata in there for me, the data for the nerds. You know, what URL did I call on Hugging Face? Was my transaction ID? What was all the Slack information? Again, the Slack information important if someone posted something not safe for work and I want to ban them because they posted images they shouldn't be doing, and all that extra metadata. Again, and in a format here in JSON, so if you wanted to download that, you could. Again, very easy to change that if we don't want all that extra metadata coming out. This is all processed very easily in Slack, and I just have a process that builds the output. Pretty simple here. So I could just manually change whatever I want it to be. Like if I just want to show the answer and not even the questions, I could just show that. Which is if you were going to do one for your own chat bot, you probably just show the generated text. They probably don't know. Maybe you put an ID in there, so if someone gets a bad answer, they could give you that ID, and you can look it up and say, okay, that wasn't a good model. Maybe we should retrain. You can also add something where they can reply to this message, and you can answer it, and maybe call a different type of model. Maybe do a different type of prompt engineering to try to get the better result, or even put a human in the loop if you want. Like say they are not happy with the answer after 3 times, have that go to a person, and then have them answer in that thread, and we can get that result automatically fed back into our Pinecone, and we could probably put an extra little token because we see what user it is. If it's the user's one of our human experts, I could put that in Pinecone with a higher priority to say this is a validated answer. You know, it's up to whatever you need to do in the system. It is pretty straightforward. Now, does anyone have any questions? Does anyone want to see any specific models? I still have a bunch of time, so I can definitely have time for answers. Otherwise, I'll show you some different models. But yes.
I'm used to the term Wi-Fi. What is not NiFi?
NiFi. Okay, they are not related other than having cool names. This program that I'm showing you right now, this is called Apache NiFi. It is short for Niagara Files, which was the creator's humorous discussion of what this did, which was release a massive torrent of files and process them. When it was created for the NSA, the original purpose was to let non-programmers be able to run data engineering systems. Because what would happen is they would set up something to work with data, and then something would change during the operational cycle. Because this is you know, NSA, you know, maybe this is on a system that is designed for a very short lifetime. Like something that fired somewhere lands and is no longer operational.
Right.
So you might have to change where you're getting that data mid-flight. Like, okay, we're gonna drop that off in the ocean, switch from this system to another one. Like if my source was that system that's gonna crash into the ocean, I'll switch to a sub. So someone could literally, while the system is running, like as this is running, I can stop anything in the system. Like let's upload some live data here. Yeah, it's not going to be able to answer this one. It's not going to be able to do that. So what's happening here is I've got this paused. So the data's here, and I pause the system, and I won't lose the data because that is a configurable queue that's designed. If I wait and come back in a year, like if I do a talk next year and I left this year, it'll be sitting there, and then I could start it then. But if you said don't send it to Slack, Slack doesn't work anymore. We don't use Slack, Tim. You know, we only use Discord, and I could grab my Discord code and push that there instead. Or if I just want, maybe my network is completely down, like I said, live system, I could just put this to a file. So I could just grab that, put that over there, and then set the parameters and restart it, and it'll go there. So someone, that didn't take, you don't need to be a programmer to move those things over. And you could also do this with a REST endpoint. So you could set it up if that's too hard for people. Say, just go to this website and that REST thing will kick something off. There's also a command line way to do it. So if something went down, so say like Amazon went down.
Right.
So instead of pushing my data to Amazon, I could push it locally or just leave it in a thing until Amazon comes back up. Or I can look at that data and say, well, this is really big. It'd be cheaper right now. I'll go make a REST call to see who has cheaper storage right now. Is it Amazon? Is it Google? Is it Microsoft? Whoever gives me the cheapest price back, I'll push to them. So data is always live. Every piece of metadata is always live, and things can be started and stopped without losing data. We can also change the version of the code underneath this while it's running without losing data. It will change underlying components and pause and put things in the queues. So say you got rid of the endpoint there.
Right.
It wouldn't let you do that if there's data sitting it wouldn't let me delete this as part of a version change because there's data waiting there. But if that got moved to here, it would take that live data in the queue and repoint it to where it needs to go instead. And do that without losing data. And while things are still running, like we're running this, we could ask more questions. This is the most important one. When is lunch? What is lunch? I don't know. See, and we'll get that second one come in here. I don't know what kind of results the LLM is going to give me for when is lunch. It really shouldn't have an answer. If it gives me an answer, it's wrong. I mean, if it checked the local thing here, but I could write something that, you know, scans this document. Like we have an OCR component. Scan this in, pull the time off there, and then use that as a feed to augment that, and then tell me the right time. So the second message got there. I'm really curious what that is. Like I said, I could just have this keep piling up, and if by default it holds 100,000 objects for each step, and I could just keep stopping steps as many as I want. That also means it has the ability to automatically do things that are pretty useful in queues. Like if we look at the configuration here, I'll just stop both ends so I could change that configuration of that queue there as well. So I could do things like make back pressure. So if say Amazon is slow, there's sometimes downstream systems are slow, you know, or they're offline for maintenance. This will fill up the queue and then stop processing, then go back, fill up that queue, go all the way back up to the source. And if we get that far, stop new data coming in or stop trying to acquire more data.
Right.
So you're never gonna lose data. It'll automatically back pressure. The nice thing is that it's also designed to run in any size cluster. I'm just running on my laptop, but I work with some customers that have 100, 200 node server. And this will automatically, the code looks exactly the same, but you could do things like round robin and load balance between every step.
Wow.
So I could potentially store to a database with 100 concurrent nodes, and I can tell you 100 nodes of NiFi will take down Oracle. I can't tell you how I know that, but it's true. 2 nodes of NiFi can take down a commercial internet site. It pushes data through extremely fast. I have been banned on a few public sites that say you can upload as much as you want, like Imager, and you can't. You can't upload 1,000 images a second. They don't like that.
Right.
I can physically do it. They don't put that in their term of agreement, though. So we could just restart this, and it'll start sending the data. Or if I'm not sure, maybe I changed something and I want to test it, because I put in a new. I changed the field. Maybe they're not using the same name. So I could just run it once, let one of them go through, and then check the results, see if that worked. Okay, it went to this Slack channel ID, which I can look that up, and I can make sure everything looked okay in there. And again, I could take any of that metadata and make that a stream of data that I push to a database, or Kafka, or to Slack, or wherever you want it, just to a file. And that has all the metadata, and that metadata accumulates up. But if you want your data to be item potent and never change, you don't have to change the main data, you can change the metadata around it. And you can put a lot of information in that metadata. So here we still have this one waiting, and I could just leave that there till tomorrow, or wait till we're done with lunch and have that process. I think that's the answer to the lunch. I kind of want to see what that is. Who thinks it's going to be really bad? I think it's probably going to be pretty bad. So let's see. What's the answer for that? Let's see. Where is lunch? Yeah, let's. Oh, did it not punch that? Oh, did it put it in here? Oh, the timestamp. Did I put it inside this one? Where did I put it? I'm seeing. Let's reload this. 7 replies. I can't see with this thing in the way. Oh, when's lunch? I don't know where my lunch question went. Oh. Seems like it got deleted. Uh-oh. When is lunch? Make sure it went through the right place. I send it to Discord now. We'll get, oh, I got it stopped here. Yeah, let me start that one. Okay, let's see where it's publishing this. Hopefully not to some random place. Okay, when is lunch? Lunch. Let's see, what's the result? 2 replies. 2 replies to get back lunch. When is lunch? User asked that. Yeah, they gave me some code. So yeah, they were confused by what lunch is. I guess I didn't give them the proper information. Oh, that's a shame. So it doesn't know when lunch is. So guys, you're gonna have to use the regular inference to figure out when your lunch is. So on here it says 12:40. We should have scanned that document to see about that. Oh, there is a question. Very cool. Any advice on dealing and tracking model hallucination? Yeah, that's the first important thing is if we capture every prompt, who sent it, when, with the response and from the model, along with that metadata of, how many tokens were taken, how long the inference took. That's very helpful. I was running against ChatGPT a couple of months ago in a live meetup, and I said, tell me about the country of Timistan, which is the country where I live, which is just me. And they actually gave me information back. They gave me the capital of Timistan was Timtown, and they had all this answers. I'm like, where did they get this from? And that they cleaned it up like a week later. So I don't know if that was an update to the model or if me posting it on Twitter that there's a Timistan made them delete it. I don't know. But yeah, hallucinations are the reasons why we do the prompt engineering. We do the, a vector database to get back in a more intelligent search. But if it's a question that doesn't really have an answer that they could give you, if I said, when is lunch at this festival at this time, and I publicly loaded that in, it should be able to get it to you. But yeah, some of these models will give you back, some nonsense. And the best thing to do is use the prompt engineering to make these prompts as precise as possible and as well written as possible. Use something like a data store to filter that out. Run other models to clean up the prompts. And if there's something that you could use regular programming for, like I have something that just parses it with NLP into chunks and looks for common questions, like what is the stock price for IBM? What's the current weather in my location? Or I can look up your location from Slack, and to not send that to an LLM. The hallucination stuff is usually stuff that is not, not something that the LLM is going to be able to answer or has the answer for, but it doesn't want to disappoint you and will try to give you an answer. And you can put that in the prompt going, just go from this text. Don't tell the model, don't give me your own opinions. Don't give me something you don't know the answer to. If you don't have the data to look it up, then, give me a no answer. Don't give me something you're like, sure, Timistan, why not? It was located between Tajikistan and Kazakhstan, and somehow is like this big, and they like put it where it was, gave it a capital, said what the GDP was, and I think we were mining nickel. I'm like, that was pretty cool, but I guess I should have put in my thing, if it is a real thing and you can find it, tell me about it. So that's kind of helped some ways to get rid of them. Or again, train, if you have to, fine train your model, or just do regular coding where you look at the prompt, and if it's something is not going to return a result, first thing I would do was something gave me a hallucination before, is cache that prompt, whether in a local data store like Reddit or a vector database. So the next time someone answers that, I know not to call that LLM because it gave me a bad answer. If you looked at the code, I have the ability to pick different libraries to call, different models, different platforms. If Mixtral is giving me a hallucination from Hugging Face, well, let me try OpenAI ChatGPT and see if that one's better. If that one's not better, I can try, Llama 2 on Watson, or Ollama with, what was the model I have over there? Is Mistral 7B, or on Google Gemma 7. And if all of them hallucinate, maybe there's no answer for it. You're like, who is God and where is he? And you're like, if it gives me an answer, hopefully Google hasn't found that answer yet. Or it hasn't given their own going, well, if you purchase this new Google product, you may be able to answer that. Yeah, maybe you could, if you're an ad company, put your own ads in there. But any other question? Hopefully that answered it. We got a couple minutes left though.
One more question. As far as I know, NVIDIA is the main manufacturer of the LLM. Is that?
No, they're the main manufacturer of the GPUs that most people use to train them. They do have some great libraries, and they also have some of their own models out there. Fortunately, all their stuff is open or open-ish. Some of them you have to be a customer to use their open model, or the model won't run without their library and their specific hardware. Like they have some for their edge hardware that only run on that device and that version of Ubuntu and that all those setups. So they're open-ish as long as you buy that expensive unit.
They're like experts with GPUs.
Yes, they
Friendly
sell and
processing.
make the best GPUs that everybody uses. Facebook has 20,000 of their high-end GPUs from NVIDIA.
Wow.
And they're very expensive and they're really hard to get. There's like a 2-year backlog to get them, but other people are making them, and Google are making their own custom ones. There's a couple startups making ones that are designed just for LLM. GPUs are pretty generic. Google has a TPU, Facebook is building one, Apple's building one, Microsoft's building one. A lot of people are building them. AMD GPUs are pretty good as well. So, I mean, there are other ways to do it, but the libraries have been tweaked for that. There's accelerators. You know, if you get a couple of NVIDIA H1000 GPUs, you know you'll be able to train these things. If you tried to run that on a system with just CPUs, instead of taking an hour, it could take 28 weeks. But a lot of the models are being shrunk down because these big models are good to answer any question, but you don't always care about any question, right? For me, I care about my meetup. What are the questions around the meetup? Or if we're at this conference, I want to know who, you know, all this information, every speaker, all their talks and related things. I don't need to know anything else. You know, like maybe directions here. Yeah, narrow. I don't need a GPU. I don't need a giant, you know, 70 gig model. I could get by with a much smaller one that just gives me the answers I need. And these smaller models are gaining a lot of popularity. So there's work on those happening. And that makes sense for most people because you're usually not just asking any random question.
Right.
You know.
But I know OpenAI also invented something called Q-Star, which is supposed to solve any mathematical problem.
They probably fed it with every existing math problem and then tested it. And of course, it's closed source and probably pricey. But I mean, if you're in college, that would be nice and you don't have to do it yourself. But then you might answer a question that the professor's never answered. So you might get in trouble for answering the unanswerable question and doing it wrong. You know, it's asked for this hardest complex problem and it goes 7. And you're like, okay, here's the answer, 7. And you're like, where'd you get that from? So I don't know. I don't know if you want that. If you want to, hopefully Boeing's not using that for how to put the doors on. You know, it's like, oh, this model said the doors can be anywhere. Put them like this. So I don't know if I trust that other than for novelty of like, let's see what it can answer. I think I'd rather have a good graphing calculator instead.
Right.
I think we got to get the next person starting to get ready, or do we have yeah, we got someone coming up.
We still got 5 minutes.
Okay. Is the speaker here? Okay, because setting this up is a little.
I think we have 10-minute break. Should be enough for me to set up the computer there and deploy it. Otherwise, I run out of time.
Oh, okay. Ooh, where's? Yeah, you got a wall plug over here.
Yes.
Any other question? Otherwise, bring that up. Start charging it.
I have one. Comes from ignorance. All
Okay.
questions comes from real ignorance. The honest question.
Okay.
The topic hallucination. I have actually only heard recently, like 2 weeks ago. Oh, they hallucinate. Yeah.
That's a nice way to say that it gave a wrong answer with no validation. And we like to give it a human capability that it's, you know, hallucinating like it's on drugs. It just didn't know the answer and didn't want to tell you it didn't know the answer.
The statement that hallucination is not bad. You said in the prompt and tell the AI, it is not actual basics. So, all right, so here's my thing. These models, these systems are built on language, pattern matching, etc. It's a bit unpredictable what they pattern matching their patterns to see.
Well, a lot of them are just math. So that they map into coordinates, especially if we pre-did it with a vector database, which also mapped it into a small list of map coordinates. So these are mathematically related answers. So if it's giving you something over there, unless it's just, like when you're hashing, sometimes you get collisions. They may give you a collision where it's, gets the same mathematical result, but it's pointing to something ridiculous.
The prompts may not be because
That's good with the open source, you can see it.
a layer may get something that was elaboration of pattern matching the layers below. And that's the point. The layer doesn't know
See,
that originated from a true or is
See, the way to get around that is most of the models are hosted by data platforms that don't let the model get some things. Like they'll tell you, this is an instruction for us. It's in brackets. That's not all going right to the model. That gets pre-processed, and they will before they call the model for you, they will check that and says, okay, it's got to be limited to this. So they'll set parameters against it to say this. And if it gets something back that's not within those parameters, they'll double check that it's in the document.
The fact basis.
Yeah, there's keywords you got to put in there. So they do an additional keyword match before it goes to the model to help reduce hallucinations. I'm sure there's still going to be some, because there's still, even with the open model, they give you the model weights. These are just big strings of numbers. You're never going to get 100% guarantee they give you the right result unless you write code before and after that looks at it and goes, no, I'm not giving that answer. It's dumb. You need a human in there go, no, 1 + 1 is not H. Get out of here. Okay, we're going to be switching
You know
speakers.
that Kurzweil